Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone to our Ramadan Summit program. I hope you're all doing well and I hope you're making the most of this blessed month. I'm Alina Zaman Khan and I will be your moderator for today. The Ramadan Summit is the final part of the Design Post-COVID Humanity program based on the three virtues, Taruf, Ta'awun, and Tarahum, acquaintance, cooperation, and mercifulness. DPCH is under the umbrella of Maker Majlis, an initiative organized by the College of Islamic Studies at Hamad bin Khalifa University in Qatar. To end DPCH with some inspiration, we are having a speaker a day for this entire month to enlighten you with their TED-style talk based on a value that is important to them. So far, we've had 23 speakers. And to introduce our very special 24th speaker for today, she is known as a bee because she buzzes everyone with her positivity and sunshine. Bayan Khaled, a research fellow at the College of Islamic Studies at Hamad bin Khalifa University. Her research area focuses on Islam, social media, and other global affairs. And she organizes events that empower youth to unleash their creativity. Her education and experience have added to her wide range of skills in writing, storytelling, and video production. Moreover, she has experience with media software, social media, and public relations. Bayan graduated from Carnegie Mellon University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and a minor in psychology. She later pursued a master's in journalism and communications from the University of Western Ontario. During her studies, Bayan developed a passion for writing poetry and producing videos on topics she feels strongly about. Please welcome Bayan Khaled, also known as B, the backbone of Maker Majlis, on lessons beyond the classroom. Thank you. Over to you, B.
Thank you so much, Alina. You're also the backbone of Maker Majlis more recently. Thank you for your kind introduction. And is it just me, or do people get more nervous presenting in front of like family and friends than strangers? Because a lot of my family and friends are here, and it's making me more nervous than if they weren't here. But anyway, happy to have you guys. Thank you for the support. Okay, let me begin. Okay, bear with me because I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, but this is part of my talk, so you can consider it like the intro or the pre-talk, if you will. Let's take a trip down memory lane. Think back to the days when you were in school. If your career is in social sciences, what do you remember about your biology classes or chemistry classes? Is there any information you can retain now? For example, can you answer this question? Explain how ions such as phosphate ions are absorbed by plant roots. Okay, let's say you're in STEM. Think back to your accounting or economics classes. How much do you remember from those? Okay, what about if I asked you to solve an integration equation with limits for x? How many of you would know how to even begin to solve it without needing to go back to your calculus books for revision? Now forget STEM. Think about your language courses. Do you remember much from there? What about your emotional memory? Do you remember if you used to feel excited or curious in those classes? You probably felt bored or frustrated. Think back to the time when you used to study for exams or do your homework. What emotions did you feel during that time? Did you feel confident, happy, healthy? Most likely anxious, helpless, tired, sleepless, and stressed, huh? Now, think back to the methods that were used when teaching you lessons in class. Did your teachers place equal importance on all subjects, including artistic courses, physical education, humanities, STEM, or anything else? Did teachers ever take you out for a walk during class to stimulate your mind before learning about a new topic? Did they have you do experiments and listen to podcasts or audiobooks and watch documentaries? I'm going to go ahead and assume that most of the time, unless you were in primary school, they throw a bunch of information at you, expect you to memorize it, and then examine you on it. Okay, last few questions. Do you remember a time or a class where you were taught about morals, ethics, cooking, sewing, mental health, or the importance of sleep? I'm guessing they mostly talked to you about your future, applying to universities, and getting the best and highest paid jobs. Okay, were your teachers calm with you if you made a mistake? For example, were they fine when you told them that you forgot your homework? Or did they easily let it go if you were late to class? Did they tell you that you were smart enough to be something great, even if you got a low grade in class or couldn't stay focused for a long period of time on a boring lecture all about numbers and equations? If your answer to most of these questions is no, then we clearly have a problem with our educational system. Okay, here's my last question. And I really want you to think about this one in particular so you can share your story with us at the end. When you remember a teacher that you loved and respected, do you remember why you felt that way about them? Did they do something special that made you feel this way towards them? While you think about that, I'll be telling you a story or incident that happened with me when I was in school that made a specific teacher's memory stay with me. Before I begin, I just want to say that I strongly disliked most of my teachers. I thought they were very rude and disrespectful, a little bit Islamophobic, and it seemed like they enjoyed humiliating students. So here it goes. Our school ended at 1. Once school ended, we had 3 options. Either we go to extracurricular activity we were already registered in from the beginning of the year, or we go home, or if our parents were late, we attend something called homework club. And yes, that is exactly what it sounds like. We go to a room that feels like detention because we all have to sit quietly and do our homework till our parents picked us up. Everybody hated homework club, but we weren't allowed to roam around the school and just hang out. And, it makes sense because teachers can't stay behind in a big school and keep track of all these minors at once, especially after working hours. But still, everybody hated homework club. My friends and I were feeling rebellious one day, and as a lot of kids used to do, we skipped homework club. We went outside school grounds, not too far, like right outside, and sat in the grass to form a little circle and chat till our parents picked us up. But because a lot of kids used to do that, some teachers would do rounds across the school and its borders to make sure everyone was where they were supposed to be. So the head of our secondary school at the time peeked outside and yelled so loud to all the people that were there, saying, "Everybody, go to homework club right now." My friends and I freaked out, but we thought we were going to get in, and we thought we were going to get in huge trouble, so we ran away. He saw us, of course, but we still did it. But he didn't chase us. He simply yelled out to us and said, "I saw you. Come now, or you'll face bigger consequences." So most of us said, "Well, we better go. We don't want to get in bigger trouble." And one of my friends said, No, he couldn't have seen exactly who we are. We can get away with this." She was afraid of the consequences. And honestly, I do have my rebellious moments, but I'm a good girl at heart, and so was she. I turned myself in, along with the rest of my friends, but that one. We walked over to the teacher, and I was surprised by his reaction. He was so fair and kind and caring in his response. He calmly said, "Girls, come on, you're better than this. I can't have you do things like this because it's dangerous and I don't want anything to happen to you. But because you did the right thing and came over from the first call, I'm not going to say anything. Just go inside to homework club and just don't do this again." I felt so ashamed, but in a good way, because I learned 2 lessons, which were that this fear wasn't worth the experience of skipping homework club, no matter how much I hated it. And the teacher was so good to us that I felt bad for disappointing him and I didn't want to do it again. So my friend who stayed behind and hiding came back after the teacher left. She was so scared and freaked out, and I told her, "Listen, go to his office and tell him the truth, that it was you and you're sorry." But she was so scared she hesitated at first. I told her he's so fair, he's not going to do anything, and in fact, he will respect and appreciate the fact that you came to him on your own. She was eventually convinced, and with me by her side, she went up to him to confess. He smiled. He said, I knew it was you, and I'm really glad you told me. If you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have been so easy on you. But since you did the right thing and you were honest and brave, I'll let it go this time. My friend was crying, and I assumed from both the feeling of relief and the same feeling I had, which was guilt for disappointing someone who was so kind to us. If he had yelled or gone crazy or punished us or humiliated us or anything like that, like the rest of the teachers used to do, I bet you anything I would have hated him till today, even though I was in the wrong. Now, pause here and remember this last sentence that I said because I have another story about this exact idea of humiliating a child to teach them a lesson. But anyway, back to the original story. Why does this teacher stand out to me even 10 or 11 years later? Unlike all the other teachers we had growing up, he showed us empathy, he showed us kindness, he showed us mercy, he taught us the value of honesty and courage. And because I experienced it firsthand from him and it felt amazing, I try to practice those values in my everyday life now. But mind you, I didn't learn these values and lessons inside the walls of a classroom. But those are the lessons that I retained all these years later. On the other hand, if Homework Club had been a place where we could have had deep discussions and dialogue, or a place where we could have played icebreaker games together, or a place where we could share a talent, skill, or piece of knowledge that we have, or a place where we engaged in team building activities, or even if they wanted to strictly stick by their curriculums, a place where students were allowed to help each other with homework, or, the possibilities are endless. Maybe so many students wouldn't have tried to skip it, but rather Homework Club would have been the place that helped them learn the same values that I learned when I broke the rules that day. Okay, now remember when I told you I had another story? So I was in an Islamic school that would run every Saturday, and the teachers were so strict. They used to yell at us and basically teach us about all the mandatory practices we had to do as Muslims, and they would judge us if we didn't do them. Mind you, we were only like 8. But anyway, we all had to wear hijab. One day, again after classes, when we were waiting for our parents to pick us up, the hijab of a girl in the class had slipped off. It's fine. It's after hours. We're all girls. And like I said, we were 8. One teacher sees this and she switches to beast mode. She started yelling at her like crazy in front of all of us because she wasn't wearing her hijab properly. About 15 years later, and I never forget that scenario, the girl was silent. And after that teacher had left, she was sobbing. And I don't blame her. If I, in my current form and age, could have been there to say something, I would have told that teacher, you sit there and preach to these kids about how we're going to be tortured in our grave if we don't pray on time. And you think that this is Islamic behavior? You think this is what Islam teaches us? You think this is how the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would have reacted? You know nothing about Islam if this is how you are, and you are not qualified to be teaching these poor girls about this peaceful religion because you are far from that. And based on this incident, what could that girl have learned in the classroom at such a young age? No less when our brains and our thoughts are still developing. That Islam is an aggressive, violent, and merciless religion. The teacher didn't explicitly say that, but she showed it based on the way she handled that situation. We learn by example, and that girl saw a live example of the very thing that Islamophobes criticize us about. And besides that, I can tell you that I didn't retain any information from that Islamic school either, because they only focused on having us memorize the Quran and not understand the values that we're supposed to learn from the Quran. So, astaghfirullah, but I am ashamed to say this, I don't remember the chapters I learned when I was there. I only remember how strict and rude they were. And a lot of people I know say the same thing. So clearly there's a problem. Even in school, I remember them focusing on topics like battles, how to perform the mandatory practices, what punishments we'll get if we don't practice, which is all great. And you do need that information. But I learned how to pray from school and from watching my family pray, but where were all the lessons about how to communicate with each other? Where were the stories of the companions and the prophets that teach us lessons about ethics and social etiquette? Where were the inspiring lessons that showed us all the values of Islam? The fiqh, which is the understanding of the Sharia law and practices, is crucial. We absolutely need to learn this. But why is the focus on just this? Islam didn't focus on this alone. So why are our schools doing that? Just think, maybe that girl from the Islamic school who was humiliated for something so trivial grew up to believe that this is what Islam is. So three things could have happened. Either she was put off by that incident that she hated Islam and got as far away from it as possible, or she picked up on it in a bad way, and now she talks to other people the same way if they made a mistake. Or best case scenario, she's seen way too many amazing Islamic characters from other people that situation didn't affect her. But if that teacher had spoken to her the way that the Prophet ﷺ taught us to, just imagine all the wonderful lessons that she could have learned from that and used in her life. And again, not in a classroom setting. So just to tie everything back together, not everything is about exams, math, science, boring homeworks, pulling all-nighters to succeed. There are lessons that we learn beyond the classroom that contribute to our success in our careers, our mental health, our relationships, and much more. What's the point of achieving the highest grades in class and becoming the richest person because of your brains, but you're not happy? You treat everyone badly and therefore everyone fears you, but no one likes you or respects you. People have different styles and methods of learning. Some are listeners, some are viewers, some are doers, some are creators, some are movers, and not everyone is the same. And to limit young students into a box of mundane curriculums, standardized testing, teaching methods, and telling them, or even making them feel like they're stupid if they don't fit into this limited and tiny box is completely unfair. And I would even say criminal. Think about this logically. We force kids who may not ever use chemistry or biology or differentiation and integration in their life to learn about these things and pressure them not only to learn it, but to do well. And we teach them that nothing else matters but succeeding in our careers and making money. But our school systems don't even take the time to give us one mandatory class about the importance of sleep and mental health. Some people commit suicide because of all this pressure from their education systems, but those systems haven't considered that maybe every once in a while it would be healthy to force these kids to stop and take a breath, to free their minds a little, to think in their own way, or even to sleep. I mean, take America as an example. They have school shooting drills, but they don't even train those kids on how to avoid becoming a shooter. They don't tackle the root cause, but they choose to tackle the outcome instead. I'm not saying in addition to, I'm saying instead. To conclude, what do? We can't just change the entire world's education system overnight, so where do we start? If schools won't put emphasis on this, then it is our jobs as teachers, community members, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, and friends to do this. People learn by example. People are most influenced by the people closest to them, and the person closest to another person who has the potential to learn and change the world could be you. So start with you. Take care of yourself. Teach yourself about ethics, humanity, love, mercy, empathy, social etiquette, basic survival skills like how to change a tire, how to cook, how to sew. All things that are crucial to know, yet they also don't teach in a class. I guess if you were ever stuck in the wild, knowing which ions are absorbed by plant roots is more important than survival skills. The more you learn, the more you will realize you need to learn. But as you teach yourself, pass on the knowledge to someone else. The way I'm trying to do that is by having deep conversations with my social circle and family about all these things and exchanging knowledge. I then pass on those reflections by making short videos focused on one aspect I feel passionate about, which is social issues that arise in my Arab and/or Muslim community, and how we can tackle them using ethical and moral values. For example, one of my videos is about how a lot of times we tend to look at someone who is thinner than us and is struggling with their weight as crazy and ridiculous, but we shouldn't look at them that way. Yet another example of a lesson they don't teach you in the classroom. So, to end my talk, my question to you is, how do you learn or teach lessons beyond the classroom? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bayan. That was truly incredible. I personally enjoyed it so much. That was very well put together, and it's such an important topic, especially during this time of COVID. How in so many schools, I mean, what what the teachers are basically doing, they're like, oh yeah, we will cover the STEM subjects, but as for subjects like physical, social health, like PSHE kind of subjects, which are important and crucial for students right now, but they're not covering them because they're like, we don't have enough time. And like, how do you help out your students right now? I mean, even like counseling services, I mean, things like this, they're like, oh, because we don't have enough time. and and the way, like, I have like my younger sister who's going to school, so the way I would help her out or make sure that, you know, we are listening to her is just by giving her time. And, you know, I mean, sitting down with her and asking her how her school is doing, not just with school, how she is feeling. I feel it's so important. And I can resonate with what you've said, like going, like looking back to school with my teachers. I mean, there was a time when I was bullied. So, and there wasn't this whole concept of these PSHE kind of classes. And I walked up to the principal and I was like, I just complained. I was like, this is not fair. I mean, you know, where are you teaching students about respect and moral values and ethics? And, you know, that's why they're behaving this way. If you were to create, I mean, another subject which would cover this, it would, at least you're playing your part. And after that, they were like, oh, Alina, you're right. We need to do something about this. And this was in 2009. So, and I was like, why didn't someone think of this before? So, so that's how I took action. I personally feel if we do see something, at least we can do our part. Like, I mean, as you said, like with my sister, I'm doing my part. When I was at school, I played my part. But that's what we can do.
Exactly. I think schools are missing two very important ideas here. They're so outdated, and the two very important ideas is the first idea, which is, you know, about mental health and physical health and all of this stuff, and like just taking a break and realizing that, you know, you don't need to get the highest grades in physics to be an amazing person. And then also like the morals and the ethics and how to treat other people, that's one aspect of it. But then the other aspect of it is they don't cater to different types of learning, you know. So they're all teaching in the same way, you know. They have a textbook, they go like ABC 1 2 3, memorize that, you're going to get examined on that, what's between A and C, and that's it. They expect, like, if you get that right, great, you're smart, you're amazing. If you get it wrong, you're stupid, you know. But they don't consider that there's other ways of learning. There's other topics that maybe this person excels at. They don't even give students the chance to find what their passion is. This is the problem. Like, they expect us to go from people who take permission to use the washroom to make a decision about a decision that will affect the rest of our lives, which is what our career will be, what career we will go into. How do you expect us to do this transition if you won't let us explore our passions? It's all the same boring subjects. But yeah, so
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with you on this. But like with my high school journey, I had a few teachers. I think if it weren't for them and exactly the way they empathized with me, they listened to me and they said this. I remember there was Mr. Williams. He was like, Alina, just focus on yourself and live in the moment, because, and you know, he's like, nothing else matters. I don't want you to, you know, worry about what you're going to do in your career, how it's going to be, and just, you know, focus on your plate of what you have right now. And I feel like it's so important as a student, like nowadays, like how many teachers actually care about their students, you know. I mean, I'm sure there must be, because I had a few as well. But yeah, this is what we all need. So now I think we will move over to the Q&A. um, Tekang, would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much, Bayan. It was a very beautiful session. Maybe to say that it was a sermon for the week, the first sermon of the week, and it was quite amazing. Probably
Thank
I
you.
want to
Thank
ask you a kind of a challenging question. It could be private, but maybe me to ask. You said a lot of stuff which cannot be said in school, which cannot be said in an academic milieu. It could be said here, not only from you, but from a lot of other speakers who have been here before. What did you do at personal level to try to woo, entice, captivate some young folks, probably where you stay, in other countries, to be part and parcel of GPCH, to skyrocket the number of them to learn something? Thank you.
So, sorry, just to confirm, is your question asking me like what I did on a personal level to make change?
No, no. My question is, what did you do at your personal level when you got information about GPCH3 to bring a lot of young people, knowing fully well that all what is going to be spoken here, it's not going to be said in class, and it's only here that they might get some of those very enriching stuff like mental health, which cannot be taught in school except the teacher has to probably take time, 5 minutes of his or her time to probably give a synopsis about mental health to his or her kids, particularly online now. We got a lot of stuff online. So that's my question.
Okay, yeah, honestly, like I said at the end of my speech, that we can't be expected to change the entire world's education system overnight, unfortunately, even though I think a lot of people have spoken about this worldwide, and people like famous people, TED Talks talking about how the education system is so outdated, yet nothing's being implemented. So actually, a lot of my ideas and my passion from this comes from the work that we do at like under the name of Maker Mejlis, where we do teach kids all of this stuff because we know that they're not teaching them in classroom settings where they're teaching. So it's our job to go above and beyond and find ways outside the classroom to teach them until eventually it just becomes such normal practice that they are forced to include it in the education system, over time. And hopefully maybe one of these one of the youth in that join us or participate with us in our programs will grow up to be a policymaker or a leader that implements these changes in curriculums. But in terms of like the personal level of what I did, I mean, yeah, like I said, like on my personal page, I do like short videos about the topics that I feel passionate about. And I hope that some people can learn from it or join me in making changes or, share it and try to spread the knowledge. But then I also for the program I try to share, like, especially if there's like a nice topic that I feel would be very helpful. I share with my friends. I mean, my friends are all here, they can attest to that. I tell them, oh, we have these talks, they're really inspiring, they're really amazing. And I even tell my sisters, you got to start with your family. I even tell my sisters who have kids, like, we need to focus on this, we need to focus on that. And they agree, and we have those conversations, and they try to put them in programs as well and teach them lessons that they won't teach them in the classroom. So yeah, you just try to spread the word. That's the best you can do at the moment until you find someone who can do more.
Okay, nice. I just saw that the number for today has skyrocketed. It shows that you actually did a lot of groundwork. I hope that those who have come today are probably going to stay and stay through.
Yeah, inshallah. Oh, by the way, I just want to say for everyone else, like, please don't necessarily feel like you need to ask me a question. If you feel like there's any part of my speech that reminds you of an experience that you had when you were in school that you learned from, or if you have a thought or an opinion or a piece of opinion or any kind of like 2 cents that you want to contribute to this conversation, consider it a conversation, not a Q&A, then I would love to hear from you as well. Maybe I missed something, maybe, I don't know. So please feel free to just add value. You don't need to ask a question.
Um, okay, I think Miss Sabika would like to say something. Miss Sabika ask away or comment.
Hi, sorry, I was just getting the muting working. So thank you so much, Bayan, as well as Alina. I think just wanted to put forward two things and then feel free to comment on those. One is, as a person who also wears a hijab and there is a visible Islamic symbol, I feel like there is a greater responsibility when I'm more visible as a Muslim to be able to portray the values of Islam in a public setting. And I feel that the way I act in public, especially in non-Muslim environments, I feel like that I act very differently. If the situation was different and I was not wearing a hijab, I think I would feel just a lot more free to kind of misrepresent the religion, I suppose. So I think that's just a thought to put forward, that I think when we have very visible symbols, I don't know, I personally feel that I feel more responsible for the way I act. And then the second part was about what you mentioned in schools. And I personally in high school took the IB, the International Baccalaureate curriculum. And I remember one of the core components of it is a theory component. I forgot what's it called, TOC, theory of concepts. I can't even remember. It was years and years and years ago. But I remember what we were studying, and this was IB in a Muslim country, is Aristotle and all of these great philosophers and these various concepts. So there's this whole need for decolonizing our curriculum that, it's not as if it's not possible, because we're still incorporating Islamic studies in school and all of that. But I suppose there's still space to kind of include our own cultural or religious elements in these sort of subjects. So get some, not study Aristotle, because I do think these are extremely important, but also study all of these other kind of schools of thought that exist. So just two thoughts put out there.
Yeah, actually, I do have comments on those. My sister as well, she like, we all wear hijab in the family, and she says like one of the reasons why she can't live in Canada is because when she was there the last time we visited with her kids, she had to be extra careful about the way that she talks to her kids, or everything she does, her behavior, she had to be extra conscious of it, because she was thinking that, oh, now if I do something wrong, everyone's going to blame Muslims. So it is a lot of extra pressure to put an extra responsibility that we have as obvious Muslims, with the hijab and everything. And I agree, you don't want to do anything wrong, but that shouldn't be the driver here. Like, the driver should be to behave based on the teachings of our prophet and our religion. And as a result of that, if we do it the right way, which is unfortunately not the way that's being taught in schools at the moment, just like with the example that I gave you with the girl who was humiliated, Maskina, but if it was taught in the right way, and we all were truly practiced Islam the way that it is supposed to be practiced, no one would dare say anything about Muslims, because we'd all be amazing. Everyone would be Muslim because they would see the example, and they would be like, oh, I mean, how many Muslims who have converted to Islam converted because they saw how amazing other Muslims were with them. So this is these are the lessons that we need to be taught, and then as for your second comment about schools and decolonizing the curriculum and all of that, I absolutely agree. My father always says that the biggest regret I have is sending you all, like me and my siblings, to an English school, or a school that's not Arabic, because first of all, our Arabic is very weak, and second of all, he tells us, and I didn't realize this until he said it, but he says they don't only teach you language, they teach you culture. So even our culture is not Arabic because of that. Even I was telling my parents yesterday that I remember in 5th grade, we had an exam in science where we were asked, do humans come from animals, or are animalistic back? I don't know what the question was exactly, but it was something to do with the evolution theory. So I said no, obviously, because what do Muslims believe? Adam and Eve, they were sent down to earth. So we don't believe in this stuff. We don't believe that our ancestors were apes. but she marked it as wrong. So and a lot of other students in the class, Muslims, wrote yes as the answer. So my dad said, see, this is what they teach you. They don't only teach you language, they teach you culture, which is wrong. So I think I learned I hope, yani, and I learned from my parents as well. I don't take this as a mistake or a regret. I take it as a learning opportunity. And I say that inshallah, when I have kids, at least in the beginning of their life, I would like to send them to an Arabic school. But anyway, that's just my comment.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sadiqa and Bayan. I would just like to add to that even sometimes, like, you know how we wear a hijab, and then sometimes people will be like, oh, you know, you're supposed to wear it in a right way, and if you're not wearing it a right way, then what's the point of wearing it? Like, you're not the ideal Muslimah. So, and you perfectly said it, that if we all just follow the teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then we wouldn't have to worry about any of these things. That's all there is to it. Because at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, he just wants us to try. And, you know, even if you like can't, and you are struggling, he knows, like, so I know so many people and they're like, you know, I'm struggling and I don't think I can keep on wearing this. And especially because other people are pinpointing that I'm not wearing it properly, but at least you're trying. And that's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, instead the culture that they're teaching here with Islam, they teach you like, oh no, she's gonna go to hell. But this is like, she might as well just take it off, you know. And then this domino effect of like all these people taking off their hijab because this is what people are telling them, but this is not the teaching. This is not.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I was in school, I mean, I was involved in sports, so I used to do everything. So whenever I used to run, and especially if you're sprinting, so my hijab, like in the beginning, it would be on, but like towards the end, it would be flying here and there. But like I was like, you know, I'm trying. At least in the beginning, it's on my head, and you know, I can't like, you know, leave sports. But I mean, you know, there is to it. But and I mean now, I mean we have like brands like Ula and others, where you know you can like actually wear it properly. But yeah, so that's just something.
Like I'm against this idea of being like so strict and aggressive with the response, you know. Like, we're not perfect, you know, we're human, we're not prophets, we're not angels, we're human. And in this day and age, you know, it's really hard to be a good human. So when we do a mistake, if you want the lesson to be effective, you need someone to teach you in a calm way where they take your perspective into consideration, where it's more conversational and dialogue and less, you did this wrong, you're stupid, or you're gonna go to hell, or you're gonna whatever. This is what I have a problem with as well. But yeah.
Yeah. So I think Sister Yasmin has a question. I think
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, Sabika, Bayan, and Alina. I just wanted to comment on the point that Sabika just made about decolonializing the curriculum. Here in the UK, we're actually trying to produce a new culture, shared civilization-based curriculum for secondary schools. And what we're doing is we're focusing on Al-Andalus, because what Al-Andalus represented is Muslim Spain for over 800 years, where under Muslim leadership, working with the Jews and the Christians and other groups, they took knowledge and learning from the Romans, the Greeks, the Indians, the Chinese, the Arabs, the Africans, and they created one of the most glittering civilizations at the time under Muslim leadership. So really there is something incredibly powerful and that is lost about the shared civilizations that we have. And this shared civilization actually, especially from Al-Andalus, gave rise to the Renaissance and gave rise to the Industrial Revolution in the West. So actually the very identity of the West is, you know, the Muslims had a major contribution in forging the identity and the culture and the legacy on the West today. But because the curriculum doesn't really explore this shared civilizational subject, there are important opportunities that are missed for Muslims to feel pride in their heritage in a holistic way, and also for non-Muslims to really understand how together as different human beings and different groups of people, when we work together, we create incredible successes. So it has messages for Muslims and messages for non-Muslims. So and because we're rooting it in the curriculum and we're meeting it in the history curriculum, and we're trying to link it to the national the national curriculum of the government, that there's actually a way to get into schools and there's a way to influence the system rather than just an isolated project or an isolated initiative. And we're finding that it's not just children who are amazed by this knowledge, but also teachers as well and educationalists as well. And then when you add technology to the delivery, the methodology of teaching and learning, it makes immersive learning, experiential learning, connecting children from across the world much more powerful. It gives children a much more powerful learning experience. So I think there are opportunities, and I think we need to be more ambitious and we need to be more systemic and structural, and use tech as much as we can to build connections between different civilizations. And Al-Andalus, I think, is a real foundation to start from in terms of having that dialogue about identity and dignity and ethics, inshallah. Just a few thoughts. I don't know what you think, Bayan.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I have nothing more to add. I agree. Even in school, I remember they were teaching us all about the British Empire and the Roman Empire. And okay, where's the, you know, there was no class about Islamic history or the Ottoman Empire, you know? So I don't know what's happening there. It needs to be, I don't remember much, honestly, but I remember that there was, I didn't relate to any of the history classes.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, it's more than history, actually. It's SMSE. So it's around identity, well-being, self-pride, self-confidence, self-esteem, diversity, inclusion, problem solving, working with others, critical thinking skills, ethics. It's much more. The history is just a vehicle, but
Yeah,
actually
they didn't teach any of this. I don't remember any of this.
Well, if you want to join with our, if you would like to join with our initiative, you know, just let me know afterwards. It'd be great to collaborate with yourself or with Sabika, anybody else, inshallah.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you. Please, you know what? I'm gonna leave my email and my Instagram in the.
And if I may chip in very briefly, by the way, Dr. Talk speaking, by the way, I cannot open my camera. Today is not my good day, so but so there, Sister Yasmin, thank you so much for your comment, and I can see the connection between what you just said and our meeting a few days ago about science, faith, and innovation for human dignity, which is going to be our new program, September, October onwards. So automatically, actually, Bayan and yourself and Bayan will be in touch because, you know, we are building the program together. So I'm really glad that we are identifying these like really natural connections and affinity that is really out there. And I just want to say that, you know, that's apart from this introduction, I'm really happy that our collaboration will resume with the new program.
SubhanAllah.
So I think we can have our next question. Nada, you may go ahead.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, Bayan. It was really, really great because I can totally relate to every bit of what you just told, because I was a student just like you, what you just told. I was a student who faced almost everything like this during my school. I mean, is it okay if I share? Would that be okay? So
Yeah.
during my school days, I was just forced to learn medicine. And many of my family members believe that taking a career on medicine or engineering would be better. I mean, they considered that only those professions would be successful. So I was just asked to train for such courses. From my 6th grade, I was supposed to attend the training classes and everything. from my 6th grade. Just imagine such a long period till my 12th grade. So I was just tortured from my home and my family members. Everybody asked me just to learn, learn, learn. And I was the biggest grandchild of my family. So they just want me to begin with. So I was totally stressed and I totally hated the education system. And I was aggressive in the beginning. And in the end, I was just like lost in hope. And I was totally just depressed during my school days. And after my 12th grade, my parents decided me to take a training center where we are supposed to attend this training for this engineering exams and medical exams. But during those days, I felt like I'm just doing something that I am not interested in. I really, really want to change this, and I was totally interested in this kind of humanities and such activities. So I finally asked my parents, would it be okay if I just do some other courses like literature? So initially, my parents just resisted because they were totally concerned about the scores and what would my family members say. Everything bothered them. But after that, I really asked a lot to my parents about my case, my situation, and finally they agreed me to take up a course on literature with journalism, which was absolutely amazing. Those college days just changed me. Like, I don't really have words to express that, but this was something which changed me, and in everything, in every perspective, everything. Those 3 years, my college days were just wow. So I was able to engage in many activities, like many projects related to society, house rebuilding projects, and everything. And still, many of my family members would be like, oh, that ain't something great. Okay. But still, you didn't know science and engineering, that not something great. And I still face those questions, but I really want to change this kind of perspectives or this kind of thoughts on education system. And yeah, I'm still going to do my master's, inshallah, someday. And still, when my parents and my family members hear that I'm applying for a course on this kind of, I actually applied for HBKU and some other universities as well. But still, many of my family members would be like, oh, why did you do that? What's a need? And you won't benefit from any of those. But I really want to change everything about this education system and everything, inshallah. And this session was exceptionally wow. It's just
Thank you so much
reflects
for
it.
your kind words. And I have mixed feelings because you say, I could totally relate. That makes me happy because I feel like, oh, I wrote a speech that people can relate to, but that also makes me unhappy because I don't
Yeah.
want people to relate to this. I want people to have like a good, to be part of a proper education system. And I have a few things, like a few opinions about what you said, or thoughts about what you said. So first of all, yes, it's not just a school thing where they put extra focus on the STEM projects and not enough on
Exactly.
anything else. It's also a family thing and a community thing and a culture thing. So yes, as Arabs or Middle Easterners, and I know as Desis as well, in the Desi community, it's all the same. It's either they always joke about this, you're either a doctor, an engineer, or a disgrace to the family. So I understand that. Alhamdulillah, my parents weren't that bad with me. They weren't bad at all, actually. My parents, like, my mom is a doctor and my dad's an engineer. I wanted to become a doctor too, like, my brother became an engineer after my father, and I wanted to become a doctor after my mother. But she was like, oh, don't do it, it's too much work. Just stick with what with what makes you happy, but also makes you money. She was rational. She didn't want me to, like, get into something that may not help me become financially comfortable or independent when I'm older. She wanted me to stick with something that I both enjoy and I can live off of, which is what I did, alhamdulillah. Like, I did business, and then I did journalism, and I didn't like business so much, but I did journalism in the end, so I did do what I wanted. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing what I love. But yeah, in our culture, unfortunately, we do have this, like, this strict like it's either this or that, idea. And I hope that, okay, maybe we can't change the older generation. We can try, but if it doesn't work, it's expected. We can't expect them to change because halas, they reached this age where they've lived their entire life believing in this. And if it's not going to go this way, then they think it's bad. So it's really hard to change their mind. So our job as, the younger generation is to change it, is to teach our kids in a different way. And me, for example, I had this, Arab, strict mindset as well when I was growing up and I was in school. I was like, I'm going to become a doctor and I'm going to, and I'm not going to take a gap year. I don't believe in gap years. They're a waste of time, whatever. Now, if like, inshallah, if I have kids and they want to take a gap year, I would encourage it, because our education system doesn't do that in school. They don't give them the information and the knowledge and the experience that they need to have in order to move on to the next stage of their life. Therefore, a gap year would actually be good for them, more than anything else. And my sister took the first step. My older sister, she always tells us, I don't care if my kids get the highest grades in class. And in the beginning, I used to think, oh, that's bad. Like, why would you say that? Why would you think that? But actually, she is right, because she's not stressing out her kids. She's not putting all this pressure on them to do well, only for them to end up doing something they don't even enjoy. She's allowing them to explore and to experience, and I'm with that. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you so much, Nada. Now we'll move on to our last question by DK Dania, I think.
Yeah. Hi. I really liked everything you said, but I don't know if it's a question. It's more like a discussion point. We were saying that the school system doesn't, like, this is going back to what you were saying about, mental health. They don't like to, they don't talk about mental health. They don't talk about, they don't teach kids how to find their why, how to find their passion. And do you think the reason is because if we introduce classes like that or anything like that, it's hard to measure, and schools are very strict on measuring, pass fail. This is very important for schools. So it's very hard to put a way to measure what the outcomes are. And I think that might be the main struggle. It's not that they're against mental health, it's just that they don't know how to measure. So maybe the first step would be to introduce an elective in these classes, over time in school, or something like that. Just like even PE, even physical ed would be measurable. But we need to find a way to measure the outcome. And maybe this could be the first step to introducing things that tackle the intangible things that we want to talk about, like our passion, like our why, like what we want to do with our life, like our belief system, like how to understand what our skill sets are. Maybe we're not good at, we're not school smart, but we're street smart. This is also extremely valuable in life. So most of the time, street smart get us places and school smart doesn't. So we have to find a way to measure the outcome. And I think that would be the first step to convincing schools, even on a small scale, of how to introduce mental health, how to introduce classes on finding our passion, finding our why. Maybe have, activities like after school time activities that have a life coach, not necessarily a psychologist, but a life coach to teach kids how to find their passion. A lot of adults that I know have no idea what they're passionate about. They don't even know what their hidden skills are. So maybe this would be the first step, and we must find a way to measure this outcome.
SubhanAllah, I'm so glad that you brought this up. And I'm also so glad that Jennifer Bruder is here. I hope you're listening, because I think that she would be the perfect person to answer this question for you. She is a psychology professor at CMU, and we're actually working on a project, a research project, a grant over 5 years. I think Dr. Evren can tell you more about that. But basically, what we want to do is we want to see kids understanding of the sustainable development goals, which include all these things like mental health, environment, sustainable living, all of this, all this stuff, quality education, gender equality, all of this stuff. So we want to see in a measurable way the kids' understanding about that. But if I'm talking more specifically about like the things that I listed, like, mental health and finding your passion and the things that you talked about as well, I mean, I don't know what the right measurable, the right way to measure all of this is, but first of all, they shouldn't be so strict about having everything be measurable. They should allow for one, at least one thing, like experiment with the one thing that doesn't necessarily have to be measurable. It could be measurable with feedback. If students come back to you, and especially all these years later, to tell you, this is the only class that actually taught me something. This class actually helped me a lot, even if it's with mental health, it didn't help them find the dream job, but it helped them be happy or figure out how to be happy. That's enough. I think that's enough.
Yeah.
You're people. So I don't know if Jennifer Bruder has any way to add to that conversation if you're listening. But anyway,
Jennifer just wrote that she's answered. She mentioned that you're answering perfectly, and so she totally testifies. And if I were to make a quick addition, because you mentioned about our Qatar National Priority Program cluster grant actually for the next 5 years, 2021-2026, Sustainable Development Goals, Education and Global Citizenship in Qatar. I think one of the intentions of this grant and one of the reasons why the Ministry of Education and Higher Education supported this grant is that we want to understand where students at actually at the kind of as a baseline, like where are they located in terms of their cognitive learning processes, in terms of their social emotional learning, in terms of their behavioral attitudes, and as well as we are trying to promote like how and what through which modalities or models the ethical and moral capacities or let's say developments could be measured. But in order to do it, of course, we need to do a strong baseline assessment. And more importantly, I believe in reference to Danya's question or comment or reflection, you cannot rely on one set of criteria or fixed criteria to measure the students, because depending on the type of school they are studying or the family they're coming from, we need to have like a bit like, unfortunately, if you look at the world right now, like the way we are trying to measure these kind of cross cultural or cross sectorial competencies or skills for students, we have pretty much fixed criteria, right? I mean, we don't really know how to localize our tools for measurement. So as you mentioned, now it's a good time to think of how those local or parochial characteristics can be, or cultural or value-based or ethical or moral characteristics, contextual or cultural dispositions actually could be part of this process. It's because education at the end of the day is intrinsically embedded in the social and cultural fabric of a society. So this is, I believe, one of the most important elements that the future of education needs to put more emphasis. So to put it in a more holistic framework. Is it easy? No, it's very difficult, but at least we are trying in our grants to see how it would actually look like.
Plus, I would add to that if this is the excuse that schools are going to use, that, oh, this is not measurable, then we're never going to start. We're never going to progress or get anywhere or take any steps forward. So we need to start, even if it's not measurable, see, and then with time, with experience, we change, we alter, we develop to hopefully, maybe, perhaps, and I wouldn't say it's impossible to measure it. It is very much possible, but there needs to be a start. There is no effort in trying to advance and develop the education system, even after all these years of people complaining about how outdated it is. So that's all I have to say about that.
Um, um, yes, I definitely agree with you, Bayan, and thank you so much, Professor Talk. I think we can go on and on about this topic. It's so rich, and I mean, it has been a very fruitful session, and it's been so engaging. I mean, obviously we had Bayan on board. So thank you so much, Bayan. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I think we'll wrap up today's session now. And please don't forget to join in tomorrow's session at 2 p.m. I will be giving my talk on the value of empathy along with Mariam Muhammad on hope. So see you tomorrow, and thank you everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your kind words and your support in attending. I hope you enjoyed.